I'm Michael Grodner. I'm the director of the Icarus Line Must Die. Joe Cardamone.
Howdy.
We're in Joe's studio right now where we actually shot a good portion of the film. And I've known Joe for a few years prior to making the film. And I always thought, we had talked about wanting to work together. I always thought Joe would be such a great center for this movie. The whole script, and script is a loose term,
For sure.
is something that Joe and I, worked on. I mean, everything is based on experiences that Joe has had throughout the years.
Either my experiences or experiences of other people that could be brought into the fold, and probably interesting because it was just a volatile time and sort of like aimless period, as like, I don't know, any sort of artistic person who keeps doing it for a long time and they commit their life to kind of, the journey of making art. Shit's gonna go up and down, and you have to like kind of learn to navigate that no matter what. And at that point, it was just chaos in certain aspects of life. There was a lot of changes. It was like a lot of changes were happening in my life, and I was kind of trying to figure out what it was.
Right. I think we were ready to start doing this at a great time for in Joe's career. So it's an interesting time that I think is an interesting time. It's when an artist who perhaps had success as in their early 20s, and then they're becoming an adult now, especially somebody who's doing the type of music that Joe is doing. They're an adult now, and how do you kind of reconcile that with who you are now and the responsibilities and things like that?
Yeah, just like evolving in life. There's it's one of those points where you evolve.
Yeah. My thought behind it was very, very little money. How do you make a movie on very little money, but make that work for the movie? Make that part of the aesthetic of the movie that it doesn't look like you're stretching a dollar, or you're not making a Civil War epic on like $5,000. So this type of a movie, and it's inspired by these films from this no wave period of filmmaking from the late 70s, early 80s in the Lower East Side of New York. And they made films on the street with their friends, with musicians, with artists, with other directors as actors. And they had a real authenticity to them, these films. And I thought, why don't we make that kind of movie here? I wanted the film to have a sense of place, and it was important for me to shoot at certain touchstones that would give, say, an outsider who's not from Los Angeles or wherever they're from, a sense of this is the environment that we are, say, dealing with day in and day out, whether it's York, going down York to Permanent Records, or Future Music, or you're in Echo Park and you're at the Echo. I mean, I spent a great deal of time at the Echo, seeing bands. That's where we go, and then even down to like Burrito King, it's intrinsically Los Angeles, and intrinsically sort of, in a sense, this type of where you would go maybe after a show. So I didn't want to just shoot anywhere or any place we can necessarily get. There were certain places that I really wanted to shoot at because, I wanted to create this sense of place, a sense of a world that we're creating.
Yeah. I mean, LA is like one of the biggest characters in the film, It's, LA is like, I was born and raised here too, so it's I think we talked about that more than a lot of things. Was like, I was very preoccupied with making sure that we shed a light on a part of the city that maybe is often ignored in mainstream film, or rock and roll film, or just hasn't really been covered properly. That it was definitely important to me to be able to set that up.
I thought that this movie, what's going to make this movie interesting is Joe and I know a lot of interesting people, and the movie itself is kind of, I mean, I look at it as kind of like a road movie where you're meeting all these different people and interesting characters. Again, it's like we don't have CG, we don't have budget to, like, you know, blow things up. We have, what we do have are real characters that are interesting, and that's what's going to make this a compelling movie.